Florida's Republican Ron DeSantis with a decisive re-election victory over Democratic challenger Charlie Crist. The GOP's rising star is now in a potential collision course with former President Donald Trump in a 2024 presidential primary. As the New York Post covered this morning, the headline says, "The future." My colleague Allison Camerata is with our panel of political experts. Allison.
Anderson, thank you very much. So let's bring in our panel of CNN political commentators. We have Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, Alice Stewart, former Pennsylvania Congressman Charlie Dent, and Karen Finney. Great to be with all of you this morning. Before we get to your biggest takeaways from the night, which I really want to hear, let's just talk about this, I guess, presidential proxy war between DeSantis and Donald Trump. Your thoughts, Charlie?
Well, if Donald Trump could take one back right now, he would take back his endorsement of Ron DeSantis over Adam Putnam in the 2018 Florida gubernatorial primary, where Putnam was going to win, and he was a very popular ag commissioner, former congressman, and then Trump went in and endorsed DeSantis. Well, guess what? You reap what you sow, and now DeSantis is ascendant with his overpowering victory last night, and Trump is in bad shape.
I will put money on one thing that Donald Trump will not take back, and that is DeSanctimonious. I think we're going to hear that over and over, the new nickname he has for DeSantis. Look, DeSantis is doing well in terms of his prospects for 2024 for several reasons. One, he has been a proven leader in Florida, financially as well as when
and does that translate nationally, Alice? Or is Florida its own biosphere?
It does translate because this gives him something to tout as he's traveling around the country. But he is a proven leader on financial matters, as well as when Hurricane came through, he was an extremely effective leader. He's a great fundraiser, and he has risen to the status of receiving a nickname from Donald Trump. And that right there shows you're a threat. And we showed a static poll last night, a head-to-head of him and Trump, and he is right up there with Trump, just ahead of voters in Florida. But if you look at the bigger picture, Real Clear Politics has been tracking this for several months. Donald Trump, in the last 3 months, his poll numbers in terms of head-to-head with DeSantis have gone down 5 points. DeSantis has gone up. So you look at the trend. That's not the trend that Trump wants.
Before I get to you, Karen, let me just show you exit polls from last night. These are Florida voters. Want Trump to run for president in 2024? No, 65% versus yes, 33%. Want DeSantis to run for president in 2024? No, 53%, and yes, 45%. That may be because Floridians want him to stay as their governor. Okay, your thoughts?
Well, I think if you look, though, across the country, what happened last night in terms of Americans pushing back on extremism, pushing back on a lot of the kind of rhetoric, frankly, that we've heard from DeSantis and candidates like him. He's probably a fantastic primary Republican presidential candidate. I do not think that woke message is going to work across the country. And I think Americans are saying we don't want extremism.
I also just want to pick up on the fact that, DeSantis may have won in Florida, but Donald Trump lost around the country. This is a resounding loss for him. And obviously, he's going to try and spin it. He's going to argue that Trump never loses, despite the fact that he clearly lost in 2020. But you have to look across different ballots, whether you're talking about Oz in Pennsylvania or Mastriano or Bolduc. There are so many Trump-endorsed candidates that are either have lost or are looking to be losers.
Did you hear what Donald Trump said last night about his endorsed candidates? Let's just play that very quickly about whether or not he won or he lost.
I think if they win, I should get all the credit, and if they lose, I should not be blamed at all.
In vintage Donald Trump.
If you learned anything about last night, yes, it was a terrible night for Trump, but the party really must moderate in tone and in substance.
Is that your biggest takeaway from last night?
It is a takeaway, but on the abortion issue, clearly a big issue. The party needs to moderate on that issue. It just does. They're on the wrong side by a big margin, especially with those most extreme laws. That's a problem for them. In tone, this election denial, which Republicans did all right last night? Oh, people like Tom Kean Jr. in New Jersey. Very mainstream, very moderate. He's certainly not crazy. He's a sensible guy. He did well. People like that. But the deniers, the people who are out on the edge, Lauren Boebert's on the cusp right now. These are the ones who struggled. So they need to get back to more mainstream, acceptable candidates who do not offend the public.
Karen, quickly, your biggest surprise or takeaway?
I told you I was going to give you my little happy dance. Look, reproductive freedom. I'm on the board of NARAL Pro-Choice America. We have been tracking this for 2 years. 8 in 10 Americans support Roe v. Wade. And I think we saw, what did the Dobbs decision do? It mobilized people to get out and vote, to register, frankly. We saw women turning out in very high numbers. Look at what happened in that ballot initiative in Kentucky, where, that went down, where we saw Michigan following in suit of Kansas. So I think it's about freedom. That's the other thing I think Republicans don't understand. It's not just about the medical procedure, but you're telling women you have less rights. And we just won't stand for that anymore, ever again.
Go ahead, Alice.
I was thrilled to see the huge Gen Z turnout. Working with the Harvard Youth Poll, they've been tracking this. And in the last election, Gen Z got involved because they were really big on climate change and other issues. With abortion, they got more involved. They appreciated seeing that their involvement makes a difference. And they were up D+23 with the Gen Z generation. And it's fascinating to see them get engaged. They were voting for climate change, on abortion, and even President Biden's repaying college debt was a big factor in getting them out. So I'm just thrilled to see the young generation get out.
Abdul, your biggest takeaway from Harvard?
I want to pick up on that and just say democracy was on the ballot, and democracy won. And it turns out that the best way to save democracy is more democracy. And that, I think, should be really heartening to a lot of us. You saw a lot of split-ticket voting where folks were saying, I like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it reminds us that we are not as polarized as a lot of the narratives say we are. And I also want to say that, a lot of the preconceived notions of what the middle looks like, I think got busted. You look at John Fetterman, who's not supposed to win statewide in a state like Pennsylvania, who's clearly a progressive, who clearly believes in Medicare for all, and he won. And so it says a lot about the way that the narrative might just not be right, and I think we got to spend a lot more time in the communities with folks who have very nuanced, diverse opinions that don't always fit our narratives.